Hello everyone. I'm Ray, your astrologer. Today we have another weekly forecast, but before we get into it, I wanted to take a moment and share a bit more about myself and my goals for this channel. I started this channel because I wanted to make astrology accessible to the average person. I wanted an easier way to share myself and my experiences within the astrology community and the world as a whole. I want to learn from each other and teach each other things in this space that we might not get to talk about otherwise. Um, yeah, I want to hear how you experience the world, whether that's through the language of astrology or through just the language of experience itself. Every one of us, every one of you, are qualified to speak on your own experience. No permission needed. You don't need permission to speak on like your own experiences. So please feel free to share your thoughts and feel free to share your criticisms too. I really enjoy the engagement even when someone is disagreeing. I'm a big Mars kind of person, so I don't mind a little bit of friction. I think we all have a lot to learn from each other, and I think that two contradicting experiences can be true at the same time. Plus, I want to grow. I want to know what you like and what you don't like. I want to know if, there was something I said that you really enjoyed, but maybe you were confused about what I meant. I want to know if there's a light or a noise in the background that's distracting, or I want to know if, what you heard was very helpful. This channel and this space is one that we cultivate together. We choose how to respond to each other in the comments, and I want to cultivate this space with love and acceptance and growth. And like I said before, I really just want it to be a space where we can learn from each other. So, anyways, we have the astrology of this week to talk about. If you haven't already, check out the monthly forecast that I did with my friend Sam, because each weekly forecast that I've been doing kind of adds and plays off of that one. So, with that being said, let's talk about the astrology of this week. And this week, of course, is June 12th to 18th. Let's get into it. So, on Monday, the 12th, we're going to have the moon in Scorpio. It's going to make a trine to Saturn retrograding in Pisces and a square to the sun in Leo. Sometimes secrets do make friends. Only reveal what others need to know today. Confidentiality is an expression of loyalty. Go to bed early. And I talked about loyalty and confidentiality last week because I feel like it plays a big theme this month overall. And especially this week. Actually, I have some notes about this week, some general notes about this week. And it's just the difference between confidentiality and secrecy, honoring unspoken words with honorable actions. And so confidentiality is something that has came up a lot for me recently. I have a really good example actually. Last week I met with us as a household, me and my roommate and my husband all met for the first time. We had our first little family meeting, our first little roommate meeting. And it's been about a month since we've had a new roommate, so this was the first. And they are both people that I know very well, but they don't know each other very well. And so I think it's very natural when you don't know someone very well, bringing up what's working and what's not working in your relationship and in your dynamics is harder. And so that's why we wanted to create like an intentional space for it because they want to get to know each other. They want to get to, be honest with each other. And my part in that experience has been one where I've had to practice confidentiality because my husband's coming to me with things that, maybe were frustrating him or he just had a hard time working around as far as our living situation goes. And my roommate was also coming to me doing the same thing. And it wasn't my place to bring up their concerns with each other, with the household, myself. I wanted to give them their own space to come and say, hey, this isn't, I'm not upset with you. It's not a big deal. I just want to make sure it doesn't become a big deal later. Can we do this or can we do that? Yeah, and so it was really interesting because I think people who are natural givers, people who are empathetic, and people that like to help others can put themselves in this position of being in the middle when they would be in a a better position practicing confidentiality because it was just really beautiful when it came together and when we all did talk because I kind of just got to sit back and let them interact with each other and engage with each other in a way that was natural for them. You know, it wasn't filtered through me. It wasn't me saying, you know, so and so kind of felt this and no, they both got to say their own piece and if I had broke my confidentiality to either of them beforehand, it would have just caused a lot of anxiety. And so I think a lot of us feel like we need to be very honest, and honesty is a part of authenticity. And I would believe, you know, I believe that. I do believe in being very transparent and very honest. And I think a good addition to that is confidentiality, is, you know, showing loyalty to people through the information that you know, respect and protect for them, because confidentiality is really about protecting information. Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about just Monday because we've got some other things going on this week. But that's it for Monday. So next on to Tuesday, August 13th. We're going to have the moon in Scorpio still. It's going to make an opposition to Uranus and Taurus and a trine to Neptune retrograding in Pisces. And then it's going to leave Scorpio. On the same day, Tuesday, it's going to enter Sagittarius, and while it's in there, it's going to make a sextile to Pluto retrograding in Aquarius, a square to Mercury retrograding in Virgo, and a trine to the North Node in Aries. So this Tuesday, there's a bit of magic in the air overnight. Take a moment today to learn a new word. Pull out a dictionary or find one online and pick one at random. If you go to my website, I have the Astrology of August. I have on my blog, and for this day, for the 13th, I included a link to the Merriam-Webster's word of the day. And I thought that would be fun because even though a lot of people might be doing it on Tuesday the 13th and getting the same word, you can do that on Sunday, you can do that on Monday, you can do it any other day, and you'll still get a different word, even if it's not completely random and is the word of their day. And yeah, I think we need to expand the way that we communicate during this retrograde, and learning new words is a good way to do that. So that's it for Tuesday. We'll keep it a little short and sweet. And on Wednesday, we have the 14th. The moon is going to be in Sagittarius. It's going to make a square to Venus and Virgo, an opposition to Jupiter and Mars and Gemini, a square to Saturn retrograding in Pisces. And then, of course, we're going to have Mars and Jupiter conjunct each other in Gemini. And this is probably the big one. Mercury is going to enter Leo, and it's doing so from Virgo. So it's while it's retrograding, it's going backwards from one sign into another. And so on Wednesday, it's important to try and it's more important to try and do something right than it is to avoid ever doing something wrong. Lead with good intentions today and practice humility when your efforts offend someone. I think a lot of people forget that one of the best political stances you can have, at least on an interpersonal level, is kindness. It is trying to do something right rather than avoiding doing something wrong. There's lots of examples I could give. I guess one that I would go with is like being misgendered. It's more important that you're humble and you're willing to, you know, correct yourself and not make a big deal out of your mistake if you accidentally misgender someone. It's more important to do that than it is to avoid engaging with them out of fear that you might do that, or to avoid, you know, building a relationship with someone or with a community because you're scared of offending them. And I think I don't know, I just think the idea of avoiding doing something wrong is not the best way to move forward. It's not a bad thing to do. I think we should try and recognize when something's inappropriate and avoid doing that. That's very good, but it's also a given. And what's not always a given is that it's more important to make a good effort, to have those good intentions, and be willing to put yourself maybe in, not, I don't want to say risky, I don't even know if vulnerable is the right word either, but put yourself in a position where you're there to learn and you're there to grow and to contribute and empower and uplift. And if you overstep or if you maybe say something a little out of turn, it's okay. That doesn't negate all of the good that you've done. It doesn't negate your intentions. And practicing humility is so important. And it's so important that we don't let our fear of doing something wrong prevent us from doing something right. And that can look like a lot of different things. I don't want to get too mixed up in the wording of it during this Mercury retrograde, but I'd love to hear that how that resonates with you, because I think that's a very interesting concept, especially in online spaces. And that's it for Wednesday. We're going to leave it at there. And Thursday we have the 15th. And on the 15th, the moon in Sagittarius is going to make a trine to the sun in Leo, to Chiron retrograding in Aries, and a trine to Mercury retrograding in Virgo. It's not making a trine to Mercury, and Mercury's not going to be in Virgo. It just entered Libra. I messed up my notes, and it's Mercury retrograde, so it's going to make a trine to Mercury and the sun in Leo, into Chiron, and a square to Neptune. And then it's going to enter Capricorn, and while the sun is in Leo, it is also going to be making a trine to Chiron retrograding in Aries. And so we've got this trine between the uh, we've got this trine, this grand trine between the sun, the moon, and Chiron, all three of the fire signs making trines to each other. And so this Thursday, do something playful today. Your inner kid is itching for something to ignite your brain. What can you do to make yourself feel young? This could be having a meal that you used to have as a kid. It could be listening to songs that you grew up with. It could be a lot of things. But I think it's important to try and connect with your inner child a little bit in a fun way, in an enjoyable way. I think the most of the time when people talk about their inner child, they're always talking about trauma and they're always talking about shadow work. Why don't we talk about fun? Why don't we talk about play? Why don't we talk about what it's like to be a kid and to kind of what I was saying yesterday, just like do something with good intentions and not worry about how it could go wrong. And if it goes wrong, well, we're not kids. We can handle that. We can manage it. So do something fun today. Do something that makes you feel young. It could be a lot of things, but whatever that means for you. Let me know what you do to feel young, actually. I would love to know. For me, I've been watching Samurai Jack because I remember when I was a kid, I had the first season on DVD and I would always make a little fort, with pillows and blankets and chairs in our basement. And then I would just watch the first season like over and over and over for like weeks at a time. And while I was in there, I would, write or draw and just feel really creative and just kind of enjoy the space. And so that's something I've been doing recently is, while I write my horoscopes or take my notes or, whatever, is just having it on, watching it. I'm almost onto the most recent season, the one that was on Adult Swim, and I've never seen it. I've actually never seen it up till this point, so I'm so excited. It's been very fun. That's what I've been doing because it makes me feel like a kid. It reminds me of being in my little safe space and just letting my mind go into full Pisces mode. And that's it for Thursday. Just try to make yourself feel young a little bit. And then we have August 16th, Friday. The 16th, we're gonna have Mars and Gemini making a square to Saturn retrograding in Pisces. And then we're going to have the moon in Capricorn making a square to the north node in Aries, a trine to Venus in Virgo, and a sextile to Saturn retrograding in Pisces. And then this next one, I'm going to include it and then I'm going to explain a little bit because you might hear it and think, hold on. On Friday, we also have the Sun in Leo making a square to Pallas Athena in Scorpio. And Pallas Athena is an asteroid. It's considered one of the four asteroid goddesses. And what you need to know about it is, one, it's the sibling of Mars. They were said to be equally as powerful where Mars would be more brute strength. Athena was more wisdom and strategic, so she could win battles that Mars might not be able to with brute force by, doing something really clever. And so she was also, I think, the goddess of like weaving and crafts, like working with different crafty kind of things. And the thing about Athena is I think of it like creative problem solving, and she was said to be able to make a deal that no one could refuse. And so sometimes her strategy of winning a battle would be to not even go to battle, to negotiate, to find out what does this person actually want and how can I provide that with the path of least resistance. This retrograde is killing my mouth. So for our forecast today, for Friday, today's the day to strategize. What could others help you do that you struggle to accomplish alone? Teamwork and cooperation is rarely a bad strategy. So just like I was saying, let's get a little creative and let's not be afraid to negotiate and compromise to get what we need. Because at the end of the day, if we have what we need and we have that peace and we could avoid a war, kiss ass a little. Be nicey. Just consider how, when you allow other people to help you, what you can both have to gain from that. And that's it for Friday the 16th. On the 17th, we have Saturday. On Saturday, we're going to have the moon in Capricorn. It's going to make a square to Chiron retrograding in Aries, a trine to Uranus in Taurus, and a sextile to Neptune retrograding in Pisces. Later in the day, it's going to enter Aquarius. The moon will enter Aquarius and make a conjunction to Pluto retrograding there. And so for Saturday, it's okay to go with what you know. Our best gifts to offer are often what we take for granted about ourselves. By the evening, you'll be ready to move forward with your new vision. And so I think the things that are natural to us, the things that come easy to us, we often take for granted. We often don't recognize the value of them. For example, I get compliments on my voice a lot. I get told that I should do ASMR, just that it's very soothing, it's very calming. It rides that balance between stoic and a little expressive. And so that's something that I don't try. It's just my voice. It's just the way I talk. It's just the way I communicate. And sometimes I even feel like bad about it because I feel like I'm autistic and my vocal tone and range I feel like is a little bit more monotonous, a little bit more baseline. It doesn't have as much up and downs in its expression. That can be very soothing. And so it's not something that I need to feel bad about or get a big head about, but it is something that I should not take for granted and that I should, recognize and be thankful for. And I think that's kind of what taking things for granted is all about, is not being grateful for them. And so I love my voice, or at least I'm neutral about it. I like that other people like it. I'll say that. And so if there's something about yourself that, maybe you're neutral at best, but other people really enjoy it, it's still part of you. No matter, regardless of how much you claim it, it is part of you. So keep that in mind on this Saturday. And that's it for Saturday. Next, we're going to have Sunday, the last day of this week that we're doing. That's going to be August 18th. And we're going to have Mercury retrograding in Leo. It's going to make a square to Uranus and Taurus. And it's also going to conjunct Vesta and the Sun in Leo. And so Vesta is another one where when people hear, they're like, hold on, what is Vesta? That's not a planet. I've never heard of that. Vesta is an asteroid. I don't remember if we used it last week or not. We might have. But we're using it this month. There's at least one other week. Maybe it's next week. I'll have to check my notes. But Vesta is one of the four asteroid goddesses, as I mentioned about Athena before. This is another one. And Vesta was all about the hearth fire. It is about the heart, our core, our very core, what makes our heart beat. And I'm not a historian. I'll be honest, but I have practiced long enough that I kind of have a little bit approximate knowledge of history, and the Vestal Virgins would have a temple, and part of their responsibility would include having this fire. This is cool. I literally have a candle lit right now. I don't normally light a candle when I do these, and I'm talking about it. But it's about keeping this fire lit, making sure it doesn't grow too big, making sure it doesn't smolder out. And this fire was representative of like the heart of the city. It was part of its core, identity. And I think with it as an asteroid and how we might feel it personally is with our core, with just the things that make us us, the reasons that our heart beats. That's a little dramatic, but I have Mars in Cancer. I'm a little dramatic when I talk about the heart. Yeah, Mercury is going to be making a conjunction to Vesta and also to the Sun. So it's going to be there. It's going to be this Cazimi and Leo with this asteroid goddess involved. And while it's happening, Vesta is also going to be making a square to Uranus and Taurus. And I don't even think I've got to this yet, but the moon is going to be in Aquarius and making a trine to Jupiter in Gemini. A lot of astrobabble. What does that all mean? When something shakes you to your core, it can feel off-centering. And what you do from there is up to you. Whether you reground or rebuild entirely, try to see change as an opportunity for growth. And so I just really want to internalize that. We are meant to change, we are meant to grow, and sometimes those changes and the ways we grow are very superficial and, very visible. Like if I get a haircut, that's a change. Everyone can see it, and it's not, sometimes hair can be very, very deep. But in my case, if I'm just getting a little trim, and for me, it wouldn't be this whole big thing. And so, yeah, I think whether you choose to kind of change your core and become something else, maybe throw some different kinds of herbs in the fire and now it's blue and you've got a blue fire that you're maintaining instead of the normal orange and yellow that fire has, or red. I'm wearing red tinted glasses. I don't know if that's distorting my color of the fire or not, but yeah, it just has the feeling of being shaken to your core. And what you do with that is up to you. So I don't want you to feel like you have a loss of autonomy just because all these external and superficial things are being shaken, and now something very deep and very vulnerable is changing or maybe even went out. Just consider whether you want to rebuild and you want it to look the same, or whether you're open to being a different person that has different experiences. And that's just about it for this week. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Please feel free to let me know. Please feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you're ready for a more personal forecast or have something that you want to talk with an astrologer about, check out my website to see if any of my services are a good fit for you. I would love to get to know to get to I would love to get together and know you and talk a little bit more. Even during these awful retrogrades where forming sentences is the most challenging task I've had today. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and have fun, and I'll see you next week.